In my mind, we have crudely 3 methods and outcomes when mixing. The everything is at 100% all the time, every hit, every pick, everything method. The ugly on purpose because I'm cool method. The modern organic method. I subscribe to the last one. I really don't think that the 100% sounds very good. It's modern, you hear a lot of bands doing it, but it's not really for me. It doesn't really allow you to feel the music. It just provokes aggressive feelings. Which, I know. Metal, hard rock, hardcore, all that, mosh pits. Here it is all about the mixing process and not the writing process, which, don't worry, I can hear you all yelling. I'll make a video about that as well. I will also assume that you know what the different plugins do, so I don't have to explain them, and also you can just replace them with your preferred options. The drum kit that I tend to use for my songs is, of course, by Adam Nolly Getgood, Getgooddrums Architect's One Kit Wonder, because it is the closest thing to what I want even when recording drums. And it gives me the sound that I prefer for mixing grain-sounding massive drums. Here I have a finished, mixed and mastered song. Let's start by listening to it. Let's share this ring, get aboard! Let me just mention that this is not necessarily about which plugin I use, but more about what type of plugin I'm using. I've created my chain to accommodate mixing and mastering and get the result that I want. The instruments are routed into buses that are then routed into 2 master buses. One for instruments and one for vocals. Then on the master channel I put a glue compressor and an adaptive limiter. Why is this so important? You might be yelling at the screen. Well, all compression, equalizing and saturation on the bus channel will affect the sound. So, actually, let's call this the Nolly method. If you have seen any video with Nolly, we all know about his top-down mixing process. I started by using that, but since then, I've kind of come up with my own version, because his version did actually not work for me. In my experience, if you have recordings or samples that sounds how you want them to, well, most of the significant sound coloring actually happens on the bus channels. The instrument master channel. I won't go into depth with it, but I will mention that all mastering plugins will be on for this video, so you can either copy the settings or adapt them to, what you're already doing. My Nolly top-down mixing is a tape machine. I use the Slate Digital. It is the SSL Master Comp. It is a saturation plugin, a front door, and of course a mastering EQ from FabFilter. Pay special attention to the FabFilter one, as things are either left-right, center, or in stereo. Let's start with the drum bus. So the first thing I have on here is a compressor from VBC FG Gray from Slate Digital. This is actually a Nolly suggestion. He suggested it, I still use it. It is a compressor that will control the snare and ensure it does not become uncontrollable. After that, we have a saturation, the decapitator. I use this one because I like the sound from the E channel. And it gives the drums a more modern, hard-hitting sound without being the 100%. The next thing is what I would call tube sound from front door. It will give you a saturation options, but that's actually not what I'm using here. I like it more with the tube sound it delivers. Lastly here, there's some equalizing. So I have chosen the SSL-E channel because I like the sound that it brings. This is to create a brighter sound that makes sure the cymbals and the snare snaps through the wall of guitars. Next up is the parallel compression channel. We all do this, and I haven't invented the deep dish here. There is an CLA 76 Bluey on here. It does the job. And then I have a little bit of saturation from Saturn 2 from FabFilter. These two channels combined creates a strong drum sound. And it is actually the only processing that I use when, I'm in writing mode. Going to the individual channels, and here we come to another Nolly method, but let me just wait on that for a moment, because first and foremost I determined what sound it is I was going for. I wanted a sound with a fat snare and a lot of thump. I learned from Nolly that most of the snare sound actually comes from the room mics. And that changed my approach. So I did not try to achieve everything from the snare channel. When I started my first album, that you can listen to on Spotify, #ShamefulPlug, use the link in the description. Well, I went to Nolly's walkthrough video of how he mixes his drums, and then I copied the whole damn thing and thought that was good enough. Then Getgooddrums came out with the One Kid Wonder Architects, and that changed the game for me. And I guess every single other person as well. It had the sound that I was trying to create by combining 3 other Getgood drum kits. Also, I started using SSL EQ channels, more specific the E channel, together with saturations from FabFilter and Getgooddrums Smash and Grab. That was a perfect mixing tool for me. But before we go into all the channels, let's go to the mapping just to have a quick overview, because here is the next Nolly method. Not everything on 100. When writing, I, just went all up on the velocity, but watching one of Nolly's videos, I very, very quickly found out that if you lower the velocity, you actually have an easier time mixing. It will sound better and it doesn't sound artificial. I also made sure that everything went through a humanizing filter. And in the end, I actually upped the velocity a little bit from what Nolly probably would do, because I still wanted it to be aggressive. But, just not 100% aggressive. Let's go to the channels. With the kick, I'm trying to get a neutral, organic, not too clicky and not too punchy, but still round and nice. The saturation gives it more power to begin with, and I have made sure to get it more oomph in the lower mids and messed around with all the different saturation options. The SSL-E channel shapes the sound to what I wanted and gives it a nice color. I of course use the channel out option with light compression and a gate that just creates a better snap. The Smash and Grab plugin is there to give more saturation and a little more compression. The snare has the same approach. First, some saturation to enhance the hit. an SSLE channel that channels out with some compression. I enhance the attack more than anything. Then the smash and grab plugin more than anything grabs the transients and adds more beef bottom end. After this, I have an SSLG channel that takes all that bottom end I have just added and shapes it by taking out 6 dBs of 400 Hz. But after this, I again, for some reason, take a Fab Filter Pro Q3 and kind of just surgically adds in a little more 200 again. It is a minutia thing, but when you listen to the whole thing together at the end, it actually makes quite a difference for me. The toms are pretty easy. They all have the same settings. The SSLE channel is all the same. It's just with a different high-pass filter settings. The smash and grab mostly just add more power through a pretty standard compression setting. The Cymbals have a Fab Filter Pro Q3 on it that more than anything just cuts a ball off it, to be honest. The setting is straight from Nolly's school of cymbal EQs, but it works, so why would I fix it? Then the smash and grab forces those few frequencies that we are left there. Wow, that was a tough one to say. The few frequencies that we have left in through. This is very important as you will get controlled but still loud cymbals. Now, the room mic. I talked about these earlier. This is where you get the wet signal for your snare. And then the smash and grab. This is super important as you need that wet signal to be forced through and loud. So that is it for the drums. I should mention that I am a big believer of the Nolly top-down mixing process, which means that most of these settings, if not all of them, is achieved by listening to the final product running through all the plugins, because that's actually where you can hear if what you're trying to achieve. I'm trying to teach you something you already know. It is essential to me that even though it is hard-hitting hardcore, I do not get the 100% option, but still have a drum kit that can sit lower in the mix because that's what I like, but you can still hear everything, especially the snare, especially the kick. But that is a tasting. Oh, and I probably should mention that this song that you have been listening to is not on the album that I have right now, but is on the new album that I'm writing right now. I just really like that song. Anyway,